All right, let's get our Facebook folks in here and we can start the show hanging out, doing our stuff. We got the wheels spinning here. Gonna be a little quicker show today. That's okay. A little later start. And we got one more Facebook. There we go. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. It's already halfway through June. Holy guacamole. It's the 16th. We're here, and it's time for an episode of Broncos for Breakfast. I am Nick Kendell, joined by Erick Trickel. Erick, I'm sorry that you hate it, but I think I'm with your wife on this one. The beard needs to stay. You're looking like a mountain man in my book. I'm enjoying it. How you doing? Happy Father's Day, and good to see you. Thanks for being flexible with me with everything going on right now.
Yeah, man, it's all good. Understand that things happen. And as for the beard, yeah, I really want to shave it off. I don't like it whatsoever. I have these long hairs as part of the mustache because I haven't trimmed it down yet because I don't have a facial hair trimmer, and they get into my mouth, so there's always this hair in my mouth that drives me nuts. But it's whatever, the wife likes it, and got to do and listen to the wife. I'm not a completely stupid man to where I don't listen to the wife, but talking about being June, happy Father's Day to everybody out there who celebrated yesterday, and to you as well, Nick. And I can't believe that it's the middle of June. My anniversary is coming up, and so is the kiddo's birthday. She's going to be 8, which
Jeez.
is just unbelievable about how fast time flies when you have kids.
Yeah. Yeah, it is absolutely crazy on that front. But hopefully I'm not frozen. Maybe it's just no, Dylan's
Yeah,
looking up. It's just Erick. So
my whole
Erick's
thing
frozen.
is my whole thing is frozen up at the moment. So
Okay. Well, you look great. Erick, you look Amish, they say in the chat. Let's say hello to everybody in the chat. Dave Glassman, good to see you. Jason Bonnie's in the house. Jeremy, welcome back. If we stay relatively healthy, it's hard to find a reason that this team isn't a legit contender. It always comes down to health and the quarterback. Those are the two big ones, and obviously we'll talk about that again. Erick's still frozen, so I'm just loving this right now. You look you look great. Jason Bonnie, morning. Great to see you. Yeah, everybody in the chat. Jason and Jeremy hanging out, and Dave. Make sure you guys click a thumbs up on the way in. But we're talking about Erick's still frozen. It's making me laugh. We're talking about NFL.com's recent article by Jeffri Chadiha. I apologize for the mispronunciation there, but he talked about 9 biggest questions hovering around the NFL's first wave of mandatory minicamps. And one of the big questions he has is who can join. There's Erick moving again. Who can join the AFC contenders, which Vegas agrees it's been the top 3 teams for a number of years. Obviously, there's a little bit of rotation here and there, but the 3 teams with the 3 best quarterbacks without complete incompetency and ownership. He talks Burrow as well out there, but Allen, Lamar, Mahomes, Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, who can join and maybe punch a chance at those teams in the AFC? And Jeff mentions the Denver Broncos. Big paragraph here, so bear with me. It says the Broncos make the most sense right now as who can contend with those elite teams, with the Chargers not far behind them. The one thing that separates Denver from other teams, along with Los Angeles, Houston, and Cincinnati, are the most sensible picks, is defense. Broncos are one of the best units in the league, and they remain flush with talent after leading the NFL in sacks and rankings, 3rd in points allowed last season. Denver is arguably the best edge rushing duo in the league in Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper. It has a disruptive interior presence in Zach Allen, the NFL's best cornerback tandem and defensive player of the year, Patrick Surtain, that'd be crazy, and Riley Moss as well. And if new players added this offseason, linebacker Dre Greenlaw and safety Talanoa Hufanga and cornerback Jahdae Barron, the team's first-round pick, live up to the hype, this will be the best defense in the league. The offense should also be better this season now that the quarterback Bo Nix is in his 2nd year under head coach Sean Payton's offense. And there are more weapons in the mix, including running backs R.J. Harvey and J.K. Dobbins and tight end Evan Ingram. Yes, the Broncos are betting a lot on dudes with long injury histories staying healthy. It's also worth pondering where this team could go if that actually happens. So a lot there from Jeff, a lot of interesting thoughts. Let's say hello, but we got more people coming in before we get into that. Conga, good to see you. I find it strange how different 2 Walmart franchises in Denver versus the Nuggets. Broncos seem to be much more completely run. Yeah, Sean Payton, I think, helps a lot with that and the infrastructure in place, but somebody who knows how with everything. But I mean, Nuggets have been pretty darn good too. So Smitty had my first Father's Day yesterday. Well, happy Father's Day. My daughter was born 10 days ago. Already has too many Broncos onesies. No such thing as too many. God bless. Hopefully everybody's healthy. Hopefully you're getting some sleep. Hopefully you have family and friend support in the area, because that first month is an absolute whirlwind. But you'll get your footing and your pacing here. So happy Father's Day to you, Smitty.
Yes. And congratulations.
Congrats. Yeah, that's huge. Girl dad too, incredible. Brandon Williams, hope everything is starting to get better, Nick. Glad to catch you guys live. I won't peel back the curtain too much, but she's stable and in the hospital, but we still don't know what's going on. So she's in the right place, but it's exhausting and I feel really bad for her. But thanks for the super chat, Brandon. Back to the comments here, Eric. I think the Broncos are a team that make a lot of sense for everything. I think right now, just to maybe be contrarian, like let's pick a team that's not the Broncos for that. I probably go Houston Texans on that front. I think we've seen higher ceiling, I think, from CJ Stroud. They have a thing that I think raises their ceiling more than anything the Broncos have done this season, and the change of the offensive coordinator, because their offensive coordinator was that bad last season. And also, I think Jeff is maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong here, maybe overselling some of the Broncos defense right now, calling Nick Bonitto and Jonathan Cooper the best edge rush duo in football, or let me see, arguably the best edge rush duo in football with Cooper and Bonitto, said the best cornerback tandem in Surtain and Moss. I think that might be a little bit overselling. Maybe I'm a hater on that front. Like you're talking about the team, I'm already talking about the Texans. Are you taking Bonitto and Cooper? Or are you taking Daniel Hunter and Will Anderson? I don't think it's a conversation. I'm taking Anderson and Hunter on that front, as good as Cooper and everybody is there. Jeremy says, stop trying to put a ceiling on Bo Nix. We haven't seen it yet, but I think the pure drop back pass game and the lack of easy buttons, I think there's a little bit more proof of concept with CJ Stroud operating that way without the bells and whistles and the bumpers in place. And that's not necessarily a negative to Bo Nix. It just makes the evaluation harder, in my opinion. So not a ceiling. I've seen operating very hard pass game from CJ Stroud. So just being contrarian right now, I think it's a conversation between the Broncos and the Texans on that front. Also talk about the Broncos defense being the best. Last year, Houston finished above them in DVOA per play, as well as EPA or DVOA, as well as EPA per play when you take out garbage time. So I don't know. I don't know if I think the Broncos are right there in the conversation, but I think Texans are also the other team.
Yeah, I think I wrote up an article on it. It's not going to get published for multiple reasons, but in it, I talked about how, I understand where he's coming from about how the Broncos make the most sense. I'm with you. I think the Texans actually make more sense. They have that elite pass rusher that can win those one-on-ones consistently that Denver's lacking. They have good edge rushers against the run, where again, that's an issue that Denver has, especially with consistency. They may not have the great interior defensive line that Denver has. That's one edge that I would give Denver. But I think everywhere else, even the secondary, even with Patrick Surtain in Denver, I think the overall secondary in Houston is a little bit better, because Derek Stingley, he's in that conversation for among the best corners in the NFL. I wouldn't say he's better than Surtain, but he's not far behind him. I think he's better than Sauce Gardner. And their other corner, whose name escapes me at the moment, he's quite good. They have really good or a solid starting duo at safety, who's very young and can still grow to be a lot more. And they don't have the injury concerns at multiple positions that the Broncos have, especially with the new additions with Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga. And so much is betting on the Broncos staying healthy on the defense for them to have this unit. I think that they actually did more to improve their depth with these, to where they can be fine if they don't, outside of the linebacker position. But all that said, I think the Houston Texans make more sense to join that, because not just for the defense, I think their offense is poised to be a little bit more consistent and not as much reliant on the growth of young pieces as Denver's is.
Now, I will say, outside of Sean Payton, there's another area where Jeff didn't mention it at all. And this is, if he wanted to argue this is the tiebreaker, this is where I'd go. But before that, we do want to give a shout out to, since we didn't do a show last week, we're going to give them a shout out this week, Factor, our guys. So go ahead, Eric.
It's summertime, Broncos country. Make this your best season yet with nutritious 2-minute meals from Factor. Eating well has never been this easy. Just heat up and enjoy, giving you more time to do what you want. Get outside instead of prepping and cooking indoors. Factor meals arrive fresh and ready to eat, perfect for any active lifestyle. With 45 weekly menu options, you can pick gourmet meals that fit your goals. You can choose from Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, and so many more.
Yeah, guys, Factor absolutely powers your day with satisfying breakfast, on-the-go lunches, premium dinners, and guilt-free snacks and desserts. It's easy to savor more this summer. Factor meals pack in flavor with none of the fuss, and they're quick and easy. Gosh, I love them. So get started at factormeals.com/milehigh50off and use code milehigh50off to get 50% off and free shipping on your first box. That's code milehigh50off at factormeals.com/milehigh50off for 50% off plus free shipping. So heck of a deal there. And as somebody who's partners in the hospital and been doing the single dad life, anything like that's easy like that you can warm up and it's still healthy, worth their weight in gold. So 50% off, I mean, hard to beat. So first, before we move into that next topic here, we want to get to Troy. Says, glad you guys are back. Yeah, no guarantee on Wednesday. My wife is still in the hospital. She's had a fever for 16 days now, and they don't know what's wrong. So just, I feel bad for her. Her arms are just dotted, bruised for so many blood draws and stuff, and they just can't figure it out. And she's miserable. So I appreciate all the well wishes. But Troy, $9.99, thank you so much for, it'd be worth it even if you guys weren't doing the super chats, but this helps a lot. He says, love Q Robinson on the edge, Q, and the depth there. Yeah, the Broncos, while they may, we'll see what happens with Nick Bonito this season, but they don't have that, Von Miller, first ballot Hall of Fame, consistent, all pro, Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, superstar pass rusher up front. But the depth they have up front is pretty outstanding. And I think it's going to make a pretty interesting conversation. I'm hoping that maybe we can get a Malik Reed situation here because we have so many possible guys. Like even if you can just get, I think Denver doesn't have a 6th-round pick this upcoming draft. I think it was part of the John Franklin Myers trade. So getting a 6th-round pick for trading off Tillman or somebody, somebody like that, or maybe even it's Jonah Ellis and you get a 3rd-round pick back or something, I don't know, something where you have just so many assets there. And that's an area where teams are always hunting. But yeah, Q, with how he's standing out now, he's still raw. I'm curious if he's more, point and shoot right now than anything, but he's going to find his way on the roster. But yeah, love Q, love Savion Jones, getting a lot of hype as well. It sounds like, DJ Jones talking about him. We'll see how he holds up against the run. You really can't tell on the mandatory mini camps and everything, but yeah, no, it's love Q. I was really bummed. I was actually putting my guy. I remember where I was when they made the pick. I was putting my guy to sleep for a nap because I was busy with everything here, and they drafted Q, and that was one of my guys, right? One of my guys. So love Q Robinson. Glad to hear that he's standing out, even though how much does that mean for his play on the field? It's better than him not standing out, I guess.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I've talked about it before. Edge rushers, defensive linemen, and OTs and minicamp where contact is so limited, especially with the offensive line. You take it with a grain of salt, but you still want them to be standing out, right? You don't want them to just be there. You still want these guys doing well because it shows, it's part of the steps of progress that you have to make. So it's good that he's standing out. But when we get to training camp, when pads get on, when preseason games happen, that's what I'm really curious about both the offensive line and the trench guys like Q Robinson and Savion Jones and how they do. But the early showings and the early promise they're showing is, well, promising.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. And those were my favorite 2 picks of the draft. Now, granted, I'm biased because I love the trench play and the pass rushers, but and also the fact that we did a show with my guys and 2 of my 5 were Q Robinson and Savion Jones. So that was awesome. Michael Ronquillo says, good morning, Nick and Eric on Broncos for breakfast. Go Broncos. Hope you're doing well, Michael. Really do appreciate you coming out. We got Gen X coming in here too. And I appreciate everybody with the well wishes for my wife. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really happy my mother-in-law's here, though, and we're doing what we can. Also, shout out to flexible bosses and work situations. I've been down to the hospital, 3-4 times a day and hanging out with her, and wouldn't be able to do that without the support of both Chad and as well as my other job out here working on vaccine trials up here in Seattle. But moving forward, back to it, the one thing that Jeff does not mention here that is, I think, the big tiebreaker for the Broncos at the end of the day and why they can be a contender in all of this, it's the offensive line. And they mentioned the Chargers here. Now, the Chargers had in the offensive line, they got arguably the highest ceiling tackle duo in football outside of the Eagles in the NFL, and Justin Herbert's high ceiling as well. But, the Broncos offensive line, when you're looking across the Bengals, the Chargers, especially the Texans, and you look at the teams who really stood out last season, a lot of them were the offensive line teams. Now it's a little bit convoluted because everything's in a system. So a quarterback and play callers and everything leads into the offensive metrics being good. You don't really find good offensive lines without good play callers or good quarterbacks. But the big tiebreaker for me and not mentioned is Broncos bringing back all 5 of their offensive line, another year in the system. And they were a top 5 top 7 unit last year, best pass protecting units. Again, some of that's quarterback play calling. And I think that with the running back additions, you're going to see a little bit more from the run blocking as well. So the big tiebreaker for me is the offensive line, and not mentioned once in a reason why the Broncos can be a contender. And I think just where the league is at, that's the biggest trump card they have.
Yeah, the offensive line is one of those things that whenever you read things about the Broncos from anywhere, the offensive line is often what goes unmentioned, right? It's a lot of Bo Nix, it's a lot of the defense, but never the offensive line, which was what I believe the best unit in ESPN pass block win rate last year. And I believe even despite the issues with the running game, I believe they still finished in the top half. I believe even in top 12. I can't remember exactly where they were, but I believe it was the top half at the very least. But getting all 5 of those back, not having the turnover, that is such a huge boost for them, and why it again they do make sense as a team that can step in and join that group of, hey, we are, the elite teams of the AFC. That is what separates them from the Texans. Now, I just got in multiple other teams, and focusing on the Texans because we just talked about how the defense for them makes sense in some aspects of the offense. They just lost their best starting offensive lineman. They traded him away, and now they're betting on a lot of youth and growth from young players on that offensive line. And if you don't get it, well, that's going to create a lot of issues for your quarterback. It's going to create a lot of issues for the running game. It's going to create just a lot of issues for the offense because everything starts in the trenches, both on offense and defense. You have to win in the trenches in order to win elsewhere. And so if the Texans aren't able to join it and the Broncos are, I bet you when, after the season, if we're looking back and having a similar conversation, it'll come down to what happened in the trenches on the offensive line and defensive line both.
Yeah, I can't remember who was talking about. Kevin Clark, maybe. He was on the Mina Kimes show, and they were talking. He said he was interviewing a Eagles personnel, and they said that the trenches are the tiebreaker. And if you're losing there, what you have at quarterback, what you have at offensive weapons, what you have in the back 7 doesn't matter. It's like if you can break even there, then it comes to those matchups on the perimeter. But if you're just getting tossed around up front, or you're getting, well, I guess either side, getting blown up pass rush, can't run the football, or you're just getting run over, you can't even get to the other aspects of your team. So got to be strong up front. And I got a graphic pulled up here of Ben Baldwin. He does a weekly composite ranking, mostly focused on pass protection, but he does run blocking stuff too. And you see here, I don't know if you guys could see it that well on the screen, but it's all teams. Another graph. God, we're such nerds here. But your x-axis is your run blocking composite. That's PFF and ESPN rankings composite. So a little bit more stable metric, a little bit more indicative when you're combining both of those together. And the y-axis is your run or your pass block win rate. You see the Broncos are pretty far and away the best pass blocking team, but I think, what is it? Their average is the middle, but their median's a little slightly below in the run block composite. So that's an area that hopefully you see them be a little bit better this season. But then you have the Texans, pretty darn poor overall. And another one that really stands out here is, my God, how did Drake May do anything last season? Look how bad the freaking Patriots are out there. My God, woof. But the Broncos, good. You want to see them obviously get a little bit better. I think I'd rather have them be in the Eagles, Chiefs stratosphere, maybe even, the Cardinals area, where I think with what you have with Bo Nix, now granted his numbers under pressure are not great, but he avoids a lot of the negatives, still the catastrophic drive killers. So I'd rather be imposing the will with the run game, I think, and let the quarterback and scheme compensate some for the offensive blocking. Maybe that's already what's happening here. Maybe that's the noise in the statistic, but big pass blocking and run blocking factor here for the Broncos. And that's the big tiebreaker at the end of the day. So I did want to pull that one up just to kind of, show where the Broncos are at, even if it is, not purely indicative. It's kind of shows you the neighborhood. Jason Bonney, $5 super chat. You guys are killing it today. $4 supers. Happy June. Happy Father's Day, everybody. He says, welcome back, Nick. Says, hope all is well in your household. We're still, I've already kind of spilled the beans there, but we're still trying to figure it out. But, stiff upper lip. Side note, get ready for Troy Franklin. There's zero chance he's not on the roster. Eric, seems like he's somebody. Sean Payton likes to use a huge variety of weapons at the pass catcher position, wide receivers, cycle them through. I still have a pretty hard time for your 5th or 6th wide receiver having absolutely zero special teams impact out there, but he definitely has a role, and it's year 2. He's young, traded up for him, so he's got a chance. I just think that he's definitely one that makes a mistake out there. The conversation becomes interesting, especially because it sounds like Trent Sherfield's actually shown up a few times in mandatory minicamp and OTAs and everything.
Yeah, so this is stemming from a conversation I had with Lance on Friday night where I asked Lance, what's the percentage of Troy Franklin, chance to make the roster? Neither one of us said 100% because for me to be 100% guaranteed to make the roster, you have to be a star. You have to be on a contract that makes it so you can't be cut or traded, or you have to be a first round pick. Not even a second round pick, really, because Sean Payton he's cut a second round pick before. Mm-hmm. He's cut a third round pick before the rookie season. So trading up for Franklin in the fourth round, yeah, that helps. But Sean Payton, he's shown before that it doesn't matter much. It shows it's all about what you're doing. I think there is a very good chance. I think I had him at like 65, 60, 70%, somewhere around there, chance to make the roster. There's a very good chance for Troy Franklin to make the roster, but he doesn't meet the criteria that I have to be 100% guaranteed to make the roster. There is a avenue for it because what he does as a blocker, what he does on special teams, it's not there. And those are attributes that Sean Payton is looking for. So and I said this on Friday night, if Joaquin Davis shows up and is able to show up as a blocker, able to show up on special teams, and is able to at least not be a significant drop-off for that role of Troy Franklin, there is a chance that Troy Franklin doesn't make the roster. It's not guaranteed. It's just likely to happen.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with him. And we're pulling for him because, hunting for explosive plays and people that can be down the field. It's 3 years of cost control left. We'll see. It starts to be a question. And the other factor is, Devon Vele. Sean Payton getting a little, I'll use one of my favorite words, cantankerous with the media in talking about that, gesturing at his knee. Who was he getting irritated at? I can't remember. He's not answering any more questions on that one. You already talked about it. But maybe Vele has, have to have something cleaned up, and he starts on IR. That's injuries can happen, and that changes the math on everything. Kind of have some Devon Vele insurance with Pat Bryant here, I would assume, at least in some of that role. I'm not sure they're going to play 1-for-1, but some of the same areas that you'd expect. So we will see, but injuries can change the math quickly, and we'll just find out more as we get closer to the start of the season.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. I just got done writing an article about why the Broncos do need Troy Franklin and why they need him to step up, and the two big areas that he needs to grow and develop at: tracking the ball over his shoulder and catching the ball over his shoulder. Because even if you're not targeting him as a vertical deep threat, which is what he does bring, I see Jason and Jeremy, they're talking about the speed and his ability to separate. Those are great attributes that you have, but it means nothing if you're not able to consistently track the ball or catch. So if Davis is able to show up better doing that, then it's a chance that Troy Franklin doesn't make it. Mm-hmm. So Franklin, there's a need for him to step up. The Broncos need the attributes that he offers. It's just he now has to go out there and show it and actually do it to make himself guaranteed to make the roster.
Yeah, we got Eric Flynn in the house with the super chat. Great to see you, Eric. And Jeremy mentions early reports are positive. Franklin making a jump. Yeah, we will see. That'd be great. He's young, and they traded up for him, and that makes a lot of sense. And he needs to make a jump. And one thing I come back to is some people, to paint Bo Nix in a negative light. They talk about he did throw the ball deep a lot, but look at his conversion rate on deep footballs last season. He was horrific. He was one of the worst, efficient deep ball passers in the NFL. I'm very much of the opinion that deep ball passing is more of a wide receiver stat than it is a quarterback stat. Right. It's about the tracking and the ability to come down with it. And that, if not to push Nix up, to push Franklin down, but I think some of those were Franklin issues there with some of the efficiency there. So hoping that we can see a step there. As far as a separator goes, I mean, Franklin's interesting because he needs to have a clear path to be a separator. Like if you get hands on him, not the best last season. Also, it was on a vertical plane, not a horizontal plane. I might put Marvin Mims up there as a better separator still. Maybe it's not purely vertical, but when you talk about the horizontal plane as well, I think there's a little bit more there with Mims. But yeah, no, there's an opportunity for Franklin. There's an opportunity for all these pass catchers at wide receiver. So I come back to, it's one of my favorite references to make. It's the Dark Knight with the pool cue. The Joker snaps it over his knee and says, "We're having tryouts. Let the best players step up." And it's not about where you were drafted or what you've done or who you know. It's about the results. So
Yep.
hoping Franklin can step up on the field because doesn't have that special teams ace in his pocket as well.
Yeah, and I mean, if Troy Franklin can step on special teams, I think some of the attributes he have can actually lend himself to the new kickoff rules quite
Yes.
well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would be an avenue that could really help him because the Broncos, they are looking for that. Opposite Marvin Mims, they need that second returner now because of the changes that they made to it that Darren Rizzi helped drew up. And so I'm sure that he has a plan for it. From what I understand, Courtney Jackson, one of the other undrafted free agents, has done really well there. So Troy Franklin, that would be a great spot for him to show that he can contribute on special teams. I don't expect him to really be a gunner. I don't think he has the overall physicality to be a gunner. So the way to special teams for him is as a returner and kick return, the second guy there. That is his best path.
Yeah, without a doubt. So we'll see. But yeah, we're optimistic there. Daniel Myers over on Facebook says, good morning. Can't wait for the offensive line to show the running game with 2 new backs. Now it's Sean Payton's time to run the ball and have play action work. Yeah, I mean, bringing back all 5 offensive linemen should help a lot. I hope they can be a little bit, continue to be versatile and more versatile. Year 2 of all these guys together. They were pretty darn good last season. Just to open up the playbook a little bit, maybe get a little bit more versatile with some of the looks. Still have questions. I mean, you mentioned 2 running backs, or I guess in the article they mentioned 2 running backs. I was reading the article again because we're going to wrap up here and circle back. But you still have questions there, right? Like RJ Harvey, like is a rookie. We don't know. I mean, we're excited for it, but fumbles, pass protection, those can get you off the field in a hurry. You got Dobbins, who last season was awesome. The first 2 weeks after that was pretty horrific from an efficiency standpoint, has had unbelievable number of injuries. So even though they added players, want to see proof on the field. And I don't even think it needs to be like for the rookie quarterback last season. I'm like, let it be 8 weeks and we'll see where we go from there. First 7 weeks were not great. Then we started, I mean, you had some flashes here and there. Of course, that's what you're looking for. We started to get some stabilization there. I think it'll take 2 to 4 weeks to really know what we have in the running back position room and if it's going to be a problem going forward. So we'll find out. But definitely it's June 16th. There's time and room for optimism right now, for sure.
Yeah, and when you're just adding running backs, it's the easiest position to translate from the college ball to the NFL. So RJ Harvey, 2 to 4 weeks there. J.K. Dobbins, he's a veteran. Shouldn't take him long at all. Now, if there is a bunch of changes on the offensive line, I would give it a little bit more time. I'd probably give it like 4 to 8 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, somewhere around there. But there's not. I mean, we already talked about that. All 5 guys are returning. All 5 guys should be taking a step forward. And with the chemistry down, getting the playbook down, another year in the system, all those aspects down, that isn't an issue. So 2 to 4 weeks for this run game. If it's not, we'll have a very clear idea of what the run game is by that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I saw Bama X and Kaleon in here. Appreciate you guys. And as we're wrapping up the show here, shout out to Jeff for the article, the off-season content, and mentioning Denver for it again. The big key we come back to, he didn't mention it too much here, but it's really, at the end of the day, does Bo Nix go from a 15th to 20th ranked quarterback in the NFL? Let's even raise it a little higher. Let's go 12th to 18th. Very middle of the pack, which is fantastic for a rookie, especially one that has questions on the offense and is complicated with Sean Payton and everything, and in the AFC West and the AFC in general. So again, some people will say that's me punching down. For a rookie, that's great. If it wasn't for Jaden Daniels last season and being in the shadow of Patrick Mahomes in this division, I think we'd be talking more about Bo Nix nationally than we were, and also a best quarterback draft in 10 years situation as well makes it tough. But Kaleon says, homies rocking the beards. Yeah, absolutely. We're hanging out. I like it, Eric. I mean, maybe it's more of a winter look for you, but I think it's fun. And Randy mentions concern about the sophomore slump. I'm not as worried about that, and we keep coming back to it. We've said it a few times on here. It's the offensive line. I think that gives you a floor on the offense every week where you can lean on them. It doesn't have to be Bo Nix in the drop back pass game. You can use the sprint outs. You can use the play action. You can use the run game. You can use the screen game, blah, blah, blah. All these things that you're avoiding the obvious true dropbacks that are the hardest thing for the quarterback with a full field reads. Eventually, at some point in games, in seasons, you do have to answer those questions. But yeah, I think those are the big areas. And then also Sean Payton setting up. So I'm not as worried about the sophomore slump. It's really how big of a leap can we get? If it's even like stable again, like let's say he's the same quarterback he was the last half of the season this year, Denver's going to win 10, 11 games and be pretty good. Even if the defense takes a slight step back, I think they're still going to be good. The Bo Nix was pretty good. Granted, a little bit of a front runner of the team as a whole, a little bit of a front runner, beat up on bad teams, not as good against good teams. But this is about as optimistic as you're ever going to hear me. Right. So I think it's awesome to hear Denver's in this conversation. I think they very much are in the AFC.
And I'm fully in agreement there. I think there's a case that you can make for every other team that he mentions. We talked about the Houston Texans. There's a case for the Chargers to make. There's a case for the Bengals. They all have that case to make. And I'm with you. I think that it all comes down to the next step in Bo Nix's development. And I'm also in agreement with you that if we can get what we got out of Bo Nix over the last half of the season, then the Broncos offense is going to be significantly better than it was last year. I'm not worried about a sophomore slump because I believe that in Sean Payton's as a coach to help keep that from happening with how he is as a play caller and the moves that they made to improve the offense. I think that I am a little bit optimistic about the run game, even though we do need to see it. I don't think it's hard to be better than it was last year, right? Mm-hmm. Last year was really bad. Javonte Williams left a lot of yards on the field, and there's been some stats on that, and we've talked into it. Warren Sharp has some good numbers on that. And so I think it's easy for them to take that step forward and help balance things out around Bo Nix, which is going to help avoid that sophomore slump. So I'm not worried about it. I'm positive on Bo Nix taking that next step in his growth and his development. The Broncos offense is going to be better. And after the season, I think that we'll get a clearer picture on who is that, that fourth team in the AFC behind the Kansas City Chiefs, the Baltimore Ravens, and Buffalo Bills, and maybe even jump in the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not very... you can write it off as being a Broncos guy and everything, but I don't have a very optimistic view over the Kansas City Chiefs with what they've done over this offseason, where they were at compared to where they're at last year. They still have a lot of questions. And I mean, Patrick Mahomes, he obviously raises the bar so much. So does Andy Reid. And that defense is good, but they still have a lot of questions with that offense. So I think there's a chance to jump the Kansas City Chiefs as well, for not just the Broncos, but for whoever ends up being that fourth team in the AFC.
Yeah. And just the other teams, I mean, we're to long shots here, but the teams not mentioned that I want to see what it looks like this season. And they're probably a year away still, but you never know. There's a team that always goes worst to first almost every single year, and who has the talent in place with a competency change in coaching staff, with maybe a high draft pick at quarterback that could shock people. And I think the Jags are an interesting team. I mean, we didn't talk about it earlier, but the Texans, their path in the AFC South is not tough, but they do have Trevor Lawrence. And Brian Thomas. I mean, unbelievable year last year. They had Travis Hunter as well. I think there's a pathway there for them. And obviously, and coaching change, a culture change. So they're a long shot. Like, don't get me wrong. They should not be talked about with the Texans, the Broncos, the Chargers, the Bengals. But they're a long shot. And I think they're at least worth tossing out there as a name right now.
Yeah.
And another team they're probably a year away from personnel wise, but you go in from Jared Mayo to Mike Vrabel, and with how good Drake May was with the complete lack of infrastructure in place last season, you could see a jump from the Patriots as well. And I think the AFC East outside the Bills is pretty darn wide open as well. So those are two teams that, again, they should not be put on the same place as the Broncos. But let's say we're looking back a year from now, and it's like, oh my gosh, Trevor Lawrence finally looked like the number one, or oh my gosh, Drake May, young quarterback, all the tools in the world, and they didn't give him the worst, both run blocking and pass blocking offensive line in the football this season, and they took a step forward. So those are two that I don't think they're going to jump to the contenders, but I think they're probably my dark horse leap teams in the AFC this year.
I'm a little surprised you didn't mention the Miami Dolphins. If they can figure out consistency with the offense, they have the pieces there, and then figure out whatever they want to do with the defense, because that's been a major issue for them. They could definitely make that leap, but they also can be that team that after the season, we're talking about them making a bunch of changes. They're just they seem to be on that tipping point for them, that they can be among the best or among the worst. So I was just a little surprised that you didn't mention the Dolphins.
I don't trust Tua's health. I don't think that there's buy-in with Mike McDaniel there right now. It seems to be a lot of turmoil in that locker room where there's not belief. The defense kind of almost feels like a defense versus offense situation brewing in there. And all the Tyreek Hill stuff this offseason too. That's that's a situation that I would not buy in. That does not seem like an ascending team. It feels more like a descending situation where things early on, I don't know if they can handle adversity again, whether that be Tua injured or Tyreek Hill doing something stupid.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I was just a little curious because I'm with you. I think there's a lot. Those are all reasons as to why they're on that tipping point of where they can be among the worst.
Yep.
But I still go back to the offense that they were able to put on the field. But if you can't trust Tua and he can't stay on the field, well then they've shown that other quarterbacks can't come in and do what he's able to do and help that offense and run the offense, not necessarily lead the offense. So yeah, I definitely get why you didn't include them. I was just a little surprised.
Yeah, and also I don't like Tua more than I like Trevor / Drake May.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. But Smitty comes in. Last question here, unless we get more super chats. How many running backs will have in rotation? A couple years ago, we saw 3. Well, the big question is injuries with that all. But I'm expecting to see 3 running backs utilized, and it's probably going to be Dobbins and Harvey early on with some sprinkles of, right now I would guess Beatty with McLaughlin on the outside looking in, but we're going to let camp and everything fall as it may. I feel pretty good about Dobbins and Harvey, though, with what they paid Dobbins. We didn't have much of a conversation to talk about that. I got to get rolling here, though, so we'll save that for another time. And then Harvey as well. You don't use a second-round pick at a back and not utilize him, barring, knock on wood, barring injury. But I'm expecting 3.
I'd say basically the main rotation 3, and then you get another one, a 4th one that's getting just a couple carries a game. And I think that so basically 4 is part of the rotation, but really only 3. And Dobbins, Harvey, that's your 1A, 1B. I think Estime and McLaughlin are going to be the other 2 that are there. Maybe Estime getting those couple touches, or even McLaughlin, just depending on the opponent that you're playing against. I have Beatty as the one on the outside personally, but that's just based off of some conversations I've had. But hey, we're still very early in the process, and a lot can change between now and time the rosters get cut down.
Yeah, I'd expect 50, 35, but 15. I guess that's kind of the snap percentage. Hopefully my math was good. My brain is operating at 10%, operating at 50, 35, 15. So appreciate everybody coming in with the super chats today. We had Brandon Williams early on, Jason Bonney, Troy Boer, Michael Ronquillo, Eric Flynn, Michael Ronquillo again. I think we had him come in twice here. Yeah. Thank you, Michael, so much. Smitty there at the end. You guys are killing it. Gonna get on out of here. Make sure you guys are following Eric and I on, oh man, this changed. Okay, we're good. Okay, Eric, make sure you're following Eric and I on Twitter. Eric is at Erick Trickel. I'm at Nick Kendell, MHH. Also follow us at Mile High Huddle. We're at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as the ticker says there underneath, please subscribe, like, and share. If you're joining us right now live, make sure you guys click the thumbs up on Facebook as well. We always appreciate that. And we'll plan on seeing you guys again early on Wednesday morning, barring anything going on with my wife. I will let these guys know, and we'll let them do as they need to. But appreciate you guys. Appreciate everyone coming in. Shout out to Jeff for the article over at NFL.com. Make sure you guys check it out. Have a great yesterday. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers in there. If you have your fathers around still, make sure you give them a call. Stay connected as best you can. You never know. And to all the dads out there that didn't have good relationships with their fathers, good job breaking the chain and being the best you can. So have a great one, everyone. Kindness and compassion. Have a good week. Go Broncos.